Look at this dirt bag. Hey grandpa, the soup kitchen is 3 blocks down, not in a showroom where cars cost more than your entire lineage ever made. The laughter roared through the glass palace of Apex Motors as Julian, the head manager, shoved the frail old man in the faded, paint-splattered jacket toward the heavy glass doors. Customers pulled out their phones, filming the old man's scuffed boots and stained cap, cackling as security dragged him onto the sidewalk and dumped his worn canvas bag into the gutter. Julian leaned down, spitting on the pavement near the old man's feet. If I ever see your dusty face near my dealership again, I'll have you locked up for vagrancy. The old man didn't yell. He didn't curse. He simply brushed the dust off his trousers, picked up his bag, and looked at his watch. You have 45 minutes left on your shift, son, the old man said quietly, his voice like grinding stone. I suggest you enjoy every single second of them. The morning sun reflected off the polished chrome and pristine glass of Apex Motors like a blinding diamond. Located in the heart of the city's most prestigious commercial plaza, the Imperial District, Apex Motors was not just a car dealership, it was a sanctuary for the elite. The cheapest vehicle on the polished marble floor cost upwards of $200,000. The air smelled of expensive espresso, custom Italian leather, and unspoken arrogance. Julian Vance adjusted his silk tie in the reflection of a matte black luxury SUV. At 34, Julian considered himself a self-made king of sales. He wore a tailored suit, used too much hair gel, and judged a human being's entire worth within 3 seconds of looking at their shoes. To Julian, poor people weren't just unfortunate, they were a personal insult to his environment. Standing nearby was Chad and his fiancée, Chloe, a couple whose wealth was only surpassed by their vanity. Chad was flexing a gold watch while Chloe took selfies against the hood of a limited edition supercar. Julian, sweetie, Chloe whined, pouting her lip-glossed lips. Can you tell the staff to clear out the commoners? I'm trying to get clean lights for my story. Of course, Miss Vance, Julian smacked, turning around. But as he scanned the floor, his smile vanished into a scowl of pure disgust. Walking through the grand sliding glass doors was an anomaly. An old man, well into his 70s, had just stepped inside. He wore a faded, work-worn canvas jacket with faint patches of dried grey paint and cement dust around the cuffs. His trousers were frayed at the hems, and his boots were cracked, brown leather, dusted with soil from hard labor. He carried a heavy, faded green canvas duffel bag slung over one shoulder. His hair was thin and white, sticking out slightly beneath a simple cotton cap. He didn't look like a buyer. He looked like he had just walked off a construction site from 1985. Julian felt a vein throb in his temple. He marched across the showroom floor, his expensive dress shoes clicking sharply against the Italian marble, cutting off the old man before he could take 3 steps inside. Whoa, hold it right there, Chief, Julian sneered, holding up a hand to block the man's path. You're in the wrong place. The bus stop is across the street, and like I told the lady earlier, we don't have a public restroom. The old man stopped. His eyes, sharp, clear, and surprisingly calm despite his weathered face, looked up at Julian. Good morning, young man, the old man said, his voice deep and raspy. I'm not looking for a restroom. I'm looking to buy a vehicle. A bit of silence hung in the air, followed immediately by a sharp burst of laughter from Chad and Chloe, who had sauntered over to watch the spectacle. Did he just say buy a vehicle? Chad roared, pulling out his smartphone to start recording. Yo, Chloe, record this. The local homeless guy is shopping for a Maybach. Grandpa, Julian snorted, crossing his arms. These aren't bicycles. The floor mats in this room cost more than your entire wardrobe. Look at you. You're tracking dirt onto our custom floor. Do you have any idea how much it costs to polish marble? I am well aware of the cost of marble, the old man replied calmly, adjusting the bag on his shoulder. I am here for a specific model. A ruby red sedan. I was told you had one delivered yesterday. It's a gift for my granddaughter. She just graduated top of her class in civil engineering, and I promised her a reliable car. A reliable car. Julian chuckled darkly, stepping closer to intimidate him. Old man, that red sedan in the corner is a custom-commissioned V12 luxury carriage. It cost $380,000. Cash or credit, neither of which you have ever seen in your entire life. Now take your dusty bag and your dirty boots and get out before I call security. I have the funds, the old man insisted quietly. I would like to speak to your general manager or whoever is in charge of sales today. I am the head manager today. Julian snapped, his voice echoing across the high ceilings. Several other wealthy clients turned to watch, snickering at the dirty old man standing amidst the shiny $1 million machines. Look at this dirtbag. Julian shouted, playing to the crowd. Hey Grandpa, the soup kitchen is 3 blocks down, not in a showroom where cars cost more than your entire lineage ever made. Chad moved in closer with his phone camera, shoving it mere inches from the old man's face. Say hi to my 50,000 followers, old guy. Tell them how you're buying a supercar with spare change. The old man didn't flinch from the camera. He simply stared at Julian. So you refuse to show me the car? I refuse to let a hobo vandalize my showroom. Julian yelled. He signaled to 2 burly security guards standing near the entrance. Get this garbage off my floor. Throw him out. The guards grabbed the old man by his arms. Though he was elderly, he didn't struggle or scream. He maintained a quiet, dignified silence as they dragged him across the pristine floor. As they reached the entrance, they gave him a harsh shove. The old man stumbled, tripping over the threshold and landing on his knee on the hard concrete outside. His one canvas bag dropped into the gutter, spear-marking the dust. Julian stepped outside, accompanied by the laughing crowd of rich onlookers. He leaned down, spitting on the pavement right next to the old man's cracked boots. If I ever see your dusty face near my dealership again, I'll have you locked up for vagrancy, Julian sneered. The old man slowly pushed himself up. He didn't show pain. He brushed the dust off his trousers, picked up his bag, and pulled the antique silver pocket watch from his coat. He clicked it open, checked the time, and looked straight into Julian's eyes. You have 45 minutes left on your shift, son, the old man said quietly, his voice cold as winter ice. I suggest you enjoy every single second of them. Yeah, whatever. Get lost, old fool. Julian snorted, turning his back and walking back into the air-conditioned luxury of the showroom to a round of applause from Chad and Chloe. Inside, Julian felt like a hero. He had protected the prestige of Apex Motors. That was epic, man. Chad laughed, showing Julian the video on his phone. I just posted it on social media. Broke hobo tries to buy supercar, gets thrown out. It already has 10,000 views. People need to know their place, Julian smirked, patting his hair back into place. Now, Mr. Chad, let's get back to discussing your purchase contract for that sports coupe. For the next 20 minutes, Julian relished the feeling of superiority. He poured Chad a glass of $500 champagne. They laughed about the old man, making jokes about how he probably lived in a cardboard box under the highway bridge down the road. Suddenly, the glass doors of the dealership blew open. It wasn't a customer. It was Arthur Pendleton, the regional director of Apex Motors, a man who oversaw 20 dealerships across the state. Arthur was usually calm and cold, but right now, his face was pale, his tie was crooked, and sweat dripped down his forehead. Julian! Arthur screamed, his voice cracking as he practically sprinted across the showroom floor. Where is he? Julian blinked, startled. He quickly stood up, offering a suave smile. Director Pendleton. What a surprise visit. Where is who? The old man. Arthur yelled, grabbing Julian by his lapels, utterly disregarding the wealthy clients watching. The man in the canvas jacket with the paint dust. The man with the green bag. Where is he? Julian's heart skipped a beat, but he forced a nervous chuckle. Oh, that crazy old hobo. Don't worry, sir, I handled it. He was causing a scene, claiming he wanted to buy the custom ruby sedan. I had security throw him into the gutter where he belongs. He won't be bothering our VIPs again. Slap. The sharp crack of Arthur's hand hitting Julian's cheek echoed through the massive showroom like a gunshot. Julian stumbled back, clutching his burning face, utterly stunned. You absolute, brainless idiot. Arthur roared, shaking so violently he could barely speak. Do you have any idea what you've just done? Yes, sir. Julian stammered, his arrogance instantly evaporating into pure terror. He was poor. He was dirty. He was wearing ragged clothes. His name is Arthur Grandpa Art Vance, no relation to you, you worthless worm. Arthur screamed. He is the founder and majority shareholder of Vance Infrastructure, the multi-billion-dollar industrial conglomerate that owns 90% of this entire city's real estate. The entire showroom fell dead silent. Chad froze, his champagne glass halfway to his mouth. Chloe stopped retouching her makeup. What? Julian whispered, his face draining of all color. He doesn't wear expensive suits because he spent 40 years building this city with his own two hands. Arthur yelled, tears of sheer panic welling in his eyes. He still visits his active construction sites every single morning to inspect the concrete himself, that's why he had dirt on his clothes. He is worth $11 billion. Julian felt the room spin. 11 billion. And that's not the worst of it, you arrogant fool, Arthur whimpered, sinking his hands into his hair. Apex Motors doesn't own this building. We lease this entire commercial plaza. And guess who owns the land, the plaza, and the very building we are standing in? Julian couldn't speak. His throat felt like it was full of sand. Arthur Vance owns it. Arthur sobbed out. And our 20-year commercial lease for this flagship dealership expired at noon today. He was coming here personally to sign the renewal contract and buy a graduation gift for his favorite granddaughter. Precisely 45 minutes had passed since the old man was thrown into the street. Outside the massive glass walls of Apex Motors, the sky seemed to darken as a fleet of 4 jet black, armored luxury limousines pulled smoothly into the dealership's driveway, blocking off the entire street. From the lead vehicle stepped 2 men in sharp, charcoal grey 3-piece suits carrying heavy leather briefcases, the top corporate legal counsel in the country. Following them were 4 heavy security guards in formal attire. And then, the door of the center limousine opened. Out stepped the old man. He was still wearing the same faded, paint-splattered canvas jacket. He was still wearing the same cracked leather boots with dust on the toes. He still had the old cotton cap pulled low over his forehead. But he was no longer slouching. His posture was commanding, his gaze sharp enough to pierce steel. Behind him stepped out a young woman in a sharp navy blazer, his granddaughter, her eyes bright with intelligence and pride. The automatic sliding doors glided open. The old man walks back into Apex Motors. This time, no security guard moved a muscle. The guards at the door were practically trembling, bowing their heads as he passed. Julian felt his knees buckle. He had to grab the edge of a marble desk just to keep from collapsing onto the floor. Arthur Pendleton rushed forward, falling to his knees right in front of the dusty boots he had ignored an hour earlier. Mr. Vance. Mr. Vance, please. Arthur cried, his voice trembling pitiably. I apologize from the bottom of my heart. This was a tragic misunderstanding. Julian here is an incompetent fool, he didn't know who you were. Arthur Vance didn't look down at the kneeling director. He walked slowly, intentionally, his cracked boots leaving tiny specks of construction dirt on the pristine white marble floor. Step by step, he walked until he stood directly in front of Julian. Julian looked like a condemned man standing before the executioner. All the sleek, arrogant charm had vanished, leaving behind a terrified, sweating coward. Aye, Mr. Vance. Julian squeaked, tears spilling down his cheeks. I didn't know. If I had known it was you, if you had known I was rich, you would have licked my boots, Arthur Vance interrupted, his raspy voice cutting through the room like a broadsword. Which means your courtesy is not given out of humanity, but out of greed. You only respect money, not people. The old man turned to his head lawyer, who immediately stepped forward and opened a thick leather binder. Mr. Vance, the lawyer declared in a clear, ringing voice. As of 12 p.m. today, the commercial lease for Apex Motors in the Imperial Plaza has officially expired. Under Section 14B of the Master Agreement, Vance Infrastructure holds the absolute right to refuse lease renewal without notice. Arthur Pendleton gasped, clutching his chest. Mr. Vance. If we lose this location, Apex Motors will go bankrupt. This is our flagship store. Effective immediately, the lawyer continued, ignoring the director's pleas, Vance Infrastructure is seizing this property. You have 2 hours to clear your personal and private inventory of this land. At 2 p.m., demolition crews will begin clearing this showroom to make way for a public youth community center. No, please, no. Arthur sobbed, burying his face in his hands. Arthur Vance then turned his cold, sharp eyes toward Chad, who was frantically trying to delete the video from his phone with shaking hands. And you, young man, Mr. Vance said softly. You filmed a senior citizen being assaulted and thrown into the street for internet views. My legal team has already filed a civil suit against you and your father's firm for defamation, harassment, and intentional infliction of emotional distress. By tomorrow morning, every bank line your family holds will be frozen pending investigation. Chad dropped his phone. It shattered on the marble floor. Chloe let out a horrified shriek, taking 3 steps back from her now ruined fiancé. Finally, Arthur Vance stepped right up to Julian. He leaned in close, his faded canvas jacket smelling of wood smoke, hard work, and fresh concrete. You told me that the floor mats in this room cost more than my entire lineage ever made, Mr. Vance whispered gently. My father was a mason. My grandfather was a carpenter. They built the foundations of this city with their blood and sweat so that arrogant boys like you could stand inside air-conditioned rooms and look down on working men. The old man reached into his coat pocket. Julian flinched, but Mr. Vance simply pulled out a crisp, single $100 bill. He tucked it neatly into the breast pocket of Julian's thousands of dollars suit. That's for the marble floor I dated, Mr. Vance said softly. Consider it your final tip. You're fired. And I will personally ensure your name is blacklisted from every luxury retail network in the country. Without another word, Arthur Vance turned to his granddaughter, who gave him a warm, beaming smile. Come on, sweetie, the old man said, his voice instantly softening into that of a loving grandfather. Let's go down the street. I know a small, honest dealership where the salespeople actually respect human beings. Let's get you your car. Together, the old man in the dusty jacket and his granddaughter walked out of the glass doors into the bright afternoon sun. Behind them, inside the multi-million-dollar palace of glass and marble, the kings of arrogance were left sitting in the dust of their own ruined lives.